Call Haloim Yahweh, Bahasham, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash, Barakatham, Shalom. This is your fellow servant Tazawar from GMS Orlando Camp, here with another lesson. First, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and from whom we learn the truth. Shalom to you, Akim, who are not in GMS but are pushing likewise doctrine and spirit and the truth with all sincerity. To you few sisters that are listening and learning, as well as you speckled birds who are scattered among the nations, looking like those nations. To the 144,000 elect men and the rest of the hopeful elect, to you I say, Shalom. This video is probably going to be like one of two that I do that was prompted or inspired by a YouTube video that came through the chat, brother shared, right? That had, so let me say it like this. In the manosphere, right, you have platforms that have become popular, okay, on social media, IG, TikTok, YouTube, things of that nature. And this platform, one of the platforms that has gained popularity as of recent, is the No Fugazi podcast, right? With the main host, the guy who hosts that podcast, that show, goes by the name Cooley. And he had a gentleman that he tapped into. Now, I only saw, a section of the podcast, probably about like an hour and a half. But he had some guests on, and one of the guests was another guy who has developed some notoriety on the social media world and on the podcast platforms. His name is Andrew. I forget his last name, but his name is Andrew. Middle-aged guy who appears to be an Edomite. I believe he is an Edomite through the spirit. Okay, but regardless of that fact, he claims to be, he's developed a following, right? And would call himself a Christian man. Anyway, you had some Israelites on his podcast, on Cooley's podcast, right? And he tapped in and had Andrew for backup. Now, the Israelites that he had on the podcast are men that we've talked about before. Who have chased the bag pretty much. Okay? Now, Captain Tazariak, all right, who's become well known in Israel, was one of the men on the podcast. The other was this guy, the head guy from Sakari. All right. who goes by Gorilla Hebrew. All right, he goes by Gorilla Hebrew now. You know, so he can push his like clothing line and all his, you know, all his little knickknacks and stuff that he's selling. Right now, you know, we talk about buying the truth and selling it not. Right, making merchandise of our people. You know, we know the guy as Alazar, right? The head guy of Sakari, who was once part of GMS but broke off. And we've done videos, as I've stated, about this guy. You know, doing debates and you know taking money for appearances and things like that. So again, that takes away the pureness of the ministry. All right. And with that being said, you know, they had the podcast and these guys were pretty much getting to a point where they were debating or, you know, argument's sake about, you know, getting caught up on words, right? Or side debates, I'll say. Not so much the words, because words are important to go into, but side debates. All right. Now, the scriptures tell us, right, to contend for the faith and to prove all things. Okay? And of course, when we put out videos here at GMS, all right, it's for the sake of the lost sheep, for the elect. Not just the lost sheep, but for the elect in particular, and the remnant that there should follow. Okay, the 1/3. That's it. Okay? And of course, we prophesied the downfall of Babylon the Great, all right, known as America. You know, who I call Lady Liberty, right? One of her other monikers. Anyway, these guys, you know, they do contend for the faith to some degree, but again, their motive would have to be in question as far as we're concerned. Now, I'm gonna grab a couple scripts real quick, because there was a bunch of yelling and sidebar, you know, like nitpicking over stuff, and they were getting outside of the scriptures. Okay, to a degree. Now, I will admit that Captain Tazariak did a good job at keeping his composure. But this is you know, the main thing I want to grab right here is Proverbs, the 26th chapter and the 4th verse. Right? And it reads, "Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him." Right? And when you get that in the NLT, it reads, "Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you will become as foolish as they are." Right? Now, again, you can teach and push the word without having these debates, without going on podcasts and things like that. If you want to edify, you can edify the body. That's the purpose of the ministry in the first place, as I mentioned earlier. You know, the 1/3, the remnant, right? And you can, again, also prophesy the downfall of Babylon the Great, America, on the highways and byways. Okay? That's the main focus, man. But again, making these pit stops to get merchandise, to get to chase the bag, is vain. All right, it's vain. Now there was a whole thing about these guys. This guy Andrew asked both Tazariot and Captain Tazariot, right, and Gorilla Hebrew, right, Alazar, if they were prophets, and they both answered yes. They both answered yes. And this guy was trying to say, well, how can you prove that you're a prophet? Right? That was pretty much took up about 60% of the hour and a half that I watched. You know, when they were getting into, you know, debates and, you know, again, like side debates, sidebars, things that were not contained in the scriptures. And Alazar did try to bring it to that. So I give him points for that. Kudos for that. You know, but again, you know, once you say your piece and the guy can't get it, right, then you gotta, you know, chuck the deuces, man. And one of the things, you know, because they were talking about prophecy, right? And I did a video here on this page a while back called Prophets versus Apostles. And we went into the difference between what a prophet is and what an apostle is. You can go back in the video library and catch that lesson. Now, to make it concise here, the word prophet or prophesy means to say before, right? To say before. So to tell something before it happens. Now, we have contained in our scriptures prophecies that have not yet taken place, such as the charagma, right? Which we have come to know, that we know, not have come to know, it was revealed to the elder apostle Tahar, right? That it is the RFID C-hip, right? That chip no dip, right? Delays. Okay? And as we see these things moving forward, we can see that this prophecy is getting closer and closer, man. Now, of course, they couldn't say, hey, you know, they did not mention the charagma, okay? And if they did, they would have had to give credit and credence to our apostles, whom they both learned from. All right? Which just shows you like a little level of pride, man. All right? Now, again, this is why we give the apostles double honors, man, because in the scriptures command us to give double honors. So us doing that is not going off. Right? Now, anyway, they could have mentioned the charagma, and they didn't. They could have mentioned destruction of America by thermonuclear missiles, and they didn't. They could have mentioned Russia, China linking up, all of these things that we know are on the horizon, but they didn't. Why not? Again, they learned these things from the apostles and elders, man. Right? So to be a prophet means to say before. And there were many prophets, and there was prophets in the scriptures that had the same message. Right? Really, when you look at the complete work, all the prophets have the same message. So that could have been something that was talked about too, if they wanted to hang on to that. But a more accurate thing for them to say was to be that, hey, we are apostles. We're apostles, right? Which goes into teachers. So let me grab this real quick. Let's grab, I think it's Romans 1 that I want. You know, hey, and I'm in transit, so Salakia, you know, if my signal's kind of shoddy or whatever, yeah, this is Romans 1:1. It says, Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be an apostle, right? Separated unto the gospel of Yahweh, right? They could have went there and read that and said, we are in kind like Paul, who was an apostle, but also a prophet, right? Now let's get this word apostle, okay? Because Paul also quoted things from what you would call the OT, the so-called OT, right? So let's get this word apostle in the Greek, and it is apostolos, right? G652, apostolos, and it reads a delegate, messenger, right? And the prophet, a messenger, right? One sent forth with orders, right? One sent forth with orders. And then it says specifically applied to the 12 apostles. Here it says Christ, but you know, we use the word Hamashiach, right, in the Hebrew. And then it says what? In a broader sense, applied to other eminent, it says Christian teachers, but it would be followers of Hamashiach, right? Hamashiachim, such as Barnabas, Timothy, and Silvanus, right? And again, we are in kind to those men in this, what you would call dispensation of time, in this time, right? Let's get the root word, which is G649. Go. Salakia. Like I said, I'm in transit mode. G649. Apostolo. Right? Apostolo. To order one to go to a place appointed. Right? That's the first definition. Then the second one says to send away, dismiss, to allow one to depart, that he may be in a state of liberty. Right? But we know it's the first definition, to order one to go to a place appointed, which we are. We are appointed to do where? Go to the highways and byways and the corners of the cities. Right? And do what? Preach the gospel, man. Prophesy. It says prophesy unto the wind. So prophesy unto the wind would make you an apostle. Go into the highways and byways. These are things they could have mentioned and brought up in the scriptures that they didn't. Right? Now, let's get Isaiah. Right? The 58th chapter and the first verse. This is Isaiah 58:1, and it reads, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Right? Because the other part of that conversation was, how do you know that you're Israelites? How do you know what's an Israelite? How do you know that you are one, and how can you prove it? Right? So they they answered those questions very well when they were given adequate time to do so without interruption, right? So hopefully, again, you know our stance about going on these fucking podcasts and debates. But if any of the remnant or elect, the body of believers, all right, those of that may be sealed but not have yet been activated, come across that podcast, right? They did do those things decently, right? So credit to where credit's due for that. But again, this is why I went to Proverbs 20. That's why I opened with Proverbs 26:4. You know, answer not a fool according to his folly. And those guys were foolish, man. And you always have to be leery of Esau's slick ass. Remember, he's the devil. All right? And although this guy Andrew might have been like, oh, you know, he seemed genuinely interested in trying to understand the stance and the viewpoint of the Israelites, right? You always have to remember these guys, the scriptures say they do a diligent search, right? And their heart is deep. Their wickedness runs deep, man. And they go forth, what? Speaking lies as soon as they've been born. So whatever information they get on you, they gonna try to reverse one card that shit on your ass and use it against you. Right? So you have to keep that in mind. Now, of course, we know that the word has to go out and the prophecies must be fulfilled. Right? And these are things that we are heralding and petitioning the Lord, you know, to continue to speed up the time. And as the scriptures say he would, or there would be no flesh left to be saved. So all these things we know. Right? But again, y'all put out videos. You got followers, man. Y'all got channels and pages. Right? This is why our apostles and elders say what? Keep the main thing, man. All right? Meaning do the work. And that's it. You don't got to chase no bag, man. The Lord will give you what's needful for you. He's going to sustain you. And again, seeking after all of those trinkets on this side is vain as fuck, especially when you all know that this place is going to be destroyed, man. It's part of the message, part of the gospel. I don't understand you niggas, man. Because that's a nigga mentality. If you know this place is going to be destroyed and you still got a need to go after it, chase after, that's like the chasing the shiny shit, man. This is the same thing our people was doing, chasing after those idols. You know? And it's vain. It's like it, you know, a little tangent, man. But anyway, this is Matthew chapter 10. Y'all know where I'm going. This is chapter 10, verse 11. And it reads, and into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go thence. All right, now we know Babylon, aka America, is one large city, the Golden City. But you should have the mind to do this, because when you read down it, look, right here, verse 12, and when ye come into an house, salute it. Right? So you still, when you go on a house, any dwelling place, building, whatever it is, right? A tabernacle, a booth, whatever. You have to consider verse 11. Who in it is worthy? Inquire who's worthy. And y'all know these men ain't worthy, man. They're not worthy of that time. But again, chasing after the bag. That's that same insatiable spirit that Esau got, man. wanting to heap things into himself, and he can't control it. So you got to be very careful. All right, and at this point, I'm not speaking to those men because they already doing what they doing. Any of you Akim or brothers believers who are hearing this message, all right, again, buy the truth and sell it not. Okay, do not make merchandise of the people. The scriptures say freely were you given, Salakia, freely have you received, freely shall you give. Right? And that's concerning everything, the word, man. Right? Verse 13. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it not, Salakia, but if it be not worthy, let your peace return unto you. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, see, house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city, right? Or house for that matter, man. So, that's food for thought. I'm going to get one more. It's going to say the same thing. Let's get it out of Luke. This is Luke chapter 9, verse 5. This is Luke chapter 9, verse 5. Verse 4. It says, and whatsoever house ye enter into, there abide and thence depart. And whosoever will not receive you, when ye go out of that city, shake off the very dust from your feet for a testimony against them. Right? For a testimony against them. And that's the thing. Right? Verse 6. And they departed and went through the towns, preaching the gospel, which is what we're supposed to be doing, and healing everywhere. Right? That's what we're supposed to be doing, man. Pushing the gospel. Right? Simple. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. A couple of things that they could have brought up, and then the overarching point about going on to the damn podcast in the first place, man. And this is especially for you newcomers that don't know, are early in the truth. You newborns, man. You babes. Right? This is an indicator. These things are an indicator of how you can decipher of who is actually moving in spirit and in truth. All right? And spirit is the point there, not in carnality. All right? This is how you separate the pureness of the gospel from those things that are vain, defiled by the world, because you can't mix the two. The scriptures tell us to use the world but not abuse it, right? We have to be in the world but not of the world. So anyway, that's the point. I pray this lesson finds you well, and I pray that it was edifying. Until next time, Shalom. Wa abad babal. Shalak mata babal.